Hi guys, and welcome back to Coffee with Kyra. Today we are joined by such a cool guest. You might have seen me on their podcast, Closet Talk. If you haven't, go check it out. They have accumulated over, I think just on TikTok alone, like 11 million followers, something insane. Just on TikTok. I'm sure you're on all the other platforms too.
Yeah, I have to
but you have to be.
Yeah, I do.
But they have just made such an authentic, inclusive platform that I think has probably made a lot of people feel seen and heard. And it's probably helped their own coming out journeys and just feeling comfortable in their own skin. So everyone welcome Maddie Westbrook. Yay! Did I say your last name right?
You did.
Cool.
It's actually funny because that's not my real last name. But
what is your real last name?
Van Honsebrook.
Why did you change it?
Because my
Are you
mom...
a criminal?
Yeah, I steal identities for a living. Yeah.
I mean...
I do social media on the side. No, my mom barged into my room summer 2019. She was like, Madeline, why do you have 10,000 followers? And I was like, girl, I don't know. I don't know why.
I don't know why it just happened.
I've just been posting my silly little videos.
Yeah. And you're like a baby to me. How old are you?
23.
23. And like you've been on the internet for how long?
4 years now.
Oh my God. So how did you build like such a massive freaking audience in just 4 years?
It's crazy that you say just 4 years because I feel like it's been a decade.
I feel like that's a short... Well, I've been in this industry since I was like 9 years old, like not in influencing and like content creation, but just like the arts and like being a kid actor. So I feel like...
That's the pipeline though. Anybody who did any sort of like acting or even like reality TV, it's just... I mean, I saw this video where it was like, The Bachelor's about a guy who ABC tries to marry off to a micro-influencer. And it's just so true because everyone on there... I mean, now you have a platform.
Everyone's an influencer.
Yeah, everyone.
Do you consider yourself an influencer?
People are like, oh my God, ew, I hate
Or do you like content creator better?
I mean, if I'm like in a business meeting and I'm like, oh, I'm a content creator. But if I'm like out and about and people who actually like unironically call themselves influencers, I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess that's what I am because that's my people. Like I can't.
That is me. I am that.
Because I can't. It's just like people hate the word, but then it's like, what else would you call it?
There's so much behind it. Yeah. I guess it's because it's like, what are you influencing? But I feel like you do a really good job of like, I didn't know before our podcast who you were. You didn't know who I was. But you don't really know who a lot of people are or just a lot of things in America.
I love how you think.
Just a lot of things.
You talk about these reality TV shows as if they're like SCOTUS or something.
But I'm going to take it out of reality TV. When you just came in here and you were like, oh, I was just on a Spotify podcast.
It was cool.
But I was like, yeah, I know about the Spotify, like how cool it looks because Shane and the blonde, I think her name's Allie from the L Word. I'm spazzing right now and forgetting it. But I was like, because the L Word girls are like on there doing their own. And I asked you if you knew what the L Word was. And you said no.
I mean, I've never seen an episode.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy because I feel like I'm a gay person. Like I should
you
do that.
Should definitely.
Yeah.
You should 100%.
I just love the Great British Baking Show. I don't feel like anything can replace that.
That's a good one too, for sure. But I feel like in general, you don't know a lot of like things that the normal people know. Like you didn't know the Kardashians. You didn't know, like you couldn't name the sisters. I feel like that's just something that everyone knows. So why do you think that is? Because I know we talked about it a little bit on your podcast, but for my people, was for my people, for you homies out there, what was like your upbringing that made you just so like closed off from
the world?
The world!
I feel like my parents constantly told me growing up, they're like, oh, you're living in a bubble. I pretty much lived in this like conservative pocket near Sacramento. And it was like, we traveled, but not like to like Disneyland. You know, we weren't traveling to like the thick of the city where you just have like a real grasp of the world. Yeah. And my mom's a teacher. My dad works at a hospital. And so they both are in environments where they see like kind of the worst of people, if I'm being honest. Like my mom saw like cyberbullying when it first started to happen. And my dad like worked in, you know, he works with kids. And so
school
he's like...
is rough. It's like such a scary place.
And so they kind of saw the influence of like what phones and social media it was like doing to kids. And I was like a leapfrog kid, you know? I had a leapfrog. I had like a Nintendo DS. I wasn't like in the 5th grade with an iPhone. My first phone was like a flip phone. Yeah. And then
did you have the internet?
No. Because when the internet, like when iPhones started coming out and the internet kind of was accessible besides like on a Chromebook, I wasn't really allowed to have it. Like they were like, no.
Because they just didn't want you to be exposed to like the bad in the world, or
and I think I was pissed. I would
be pissed.
I was pissed in the moment. I was like, what? Like everybody else has a phone. That's always the argument. It's like, oh, everybody else has one.
Yeah, like even going to school and being able to like relate to other kids and like what they're watching on TV.
I didn't know what Musical.ly was until I was 19 on TikTok. Like I had no idea just what was going on because I just wasn't allowed to have it. And I think my parents got really scared because I started like texting a girl when I was like 14. And this was when
like flirty.
Super flirty. 'cause, like I was definitely trying to like have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
But that was also my first time I realized I was gay. It was like we were texting and I was like, why do I have feelings? Like why? I've never had feelings.
But
before.
like, if you were so like not exposed to things, did you have any type of person in your life that you were like, oh, that's a lesbian, or that's someone that likes women? Like, how did you know that was even a thing? Or
Ellen.
you're just like, I feel Ellen.
No, I'm
Ellen.
kidding. Ellen was the only gay person in
So you're not kidding. It was Ellen.
No, I'm not kidding. I mean, I wasn't like attracted to Ellen, but I definitely would. That was just. I mean, you look at that's a lesbian.
Yeah.
You know? And I realized
yeah.
what gay was when I was 10, and we were like flipping through the channels on TV, and all of a sudden 2 guys were kissing, and my mom like snatches the remote, and she's like turns the channel really fast, and I'm like, what was that?
Yeah.
And she was like, you don't need to know. And I was like, okay, like I'm scared. And so
Yeah.
obviously like that was my very first initial reaction to being exposed
Kind
to
of
gay.
a negative reaction.
And it was
too,
negative.
from
And
your
so I
mom.
was like, yeah, for my mom especially, you know,
Yeah.
I look up to my parents.
Yeah,
Like
everyone does. As much as you want to be like, I don't care about my parents' opinion, you're always going to give a fuck
Always.
because it's just your DNA.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And
yeah.
so growing up too, I was taught to violently respect authority. Like I'm the kind of person, I think it was 2 days ago, I was hanging out with just like a new friend, and we were going to take pictures on this pier, and the pier had like a sign on it, and it was like, do not enter, trespassing, whatever. And they were like, let's go. And I was like, oh, well, we shouldn't be doing this. I'm the type of friend that's like, guys, I don't
That's
know.
kind of me too, though. I spaz out.
And so I'm like, guys, I don't know. We're going to get like arrested. We're going to get shot.
Yeah.
Like I freak out over
Yeah.
anything because I was taught like if something says to not do something, don't do it. If a teacher or a police person says to not do something, don't do it.
But even with your mom reacting like that to like 2 guys kissing, you still had like the balls, it sounds like, to flirt with a girl.
Well, they took my phone. So I had no way
How
to
did
flirt
they
with
find it? Do they like, would they check your phone?
I don't hear me out. I was outed by my brother. I don't think he really meant to do it. I don't think he knew it was a negative thing.
Yeah.
But he told them that people in her friend group were friends with people in his friend group.
Okay.
And this isn't when social media like made just gay people okay. I feel
Yeah.
like social media over
Yeah.
the course of the past 5 years is just like gay people, yay.
We love them.
But before that, it was not like that.
No, yeah.
It was not. It was
it's
just,
gotten a lot better over the years.
it was
for
just
sure.
so like hush hush. It was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
did you hear Maddie's gay? Like it was so beyond.
So he like said it to one of your like friends, mutual friends, and
Well,
then
I think-
everyone found out.
He told my parents.
But like not in a bad way. Like he was.
I think he was just concerned. I think.
Well,
but-
he had the same parents as you, so
Right.
obviously like already channeled in like that's bad.
Right.
And now Maddie's bad.
Maddie's
Being
bad.
bad. We got to tell mom and dad.
Yeah, and so he told them, and then they called me into their room, and they were like, we know you've been talking to this girl. We read your texts. Because they would take my phone every night, and they would, like, look through all my messages.
That's crazy. A girl that I just had on the podcast, her parents would drug test her. Literally,
yeah, they drug
blood
tested me,
and urine.
too.
What?
Blood? That's too much. The urine part, yeah.
Well, her parents were doctors. Well, one of your parents is a doctor, you said.
My dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just urine, not blood for you.
Yeah, no, they've had me pee in a couple
But that
times.
still blows my mind. Like, I did not know that parents did this. Like, my situation and upbringing, and I want to continue, but like, my parents were hippies. From a young age, like my dad's bisexual. I just always knew that like they were always just like, if whoever you like, it doesn't matter, you know?
That's so
It doesn't matter.
My
So to
girlfriend's
hear-
the same way. Like her mom, I was like, when did you know you were gay? She's like, I think I always knew. I was like, well, how? How did you
Yeah.
like know what it was? And she was like, I think my aunt's gay. My mom has a bunch of gay friends.
Yeah.
Like drag queens.
It's all about, I
And I
think,
was like-
yeah, your process is just about who you are being raised by and like
Yeah.
who you're coming up with. But it just blows my mind now that like literally the next day you're over here saying like they would drug test you
Yeah.
and look through your phone every
I
day.
I would hang out in my mom's classroom in the morning, and what divided the middle school that I went to and the high school that I went to was a crosswalk. Like it was just boom, boom, right across the street.
That's small
So,
town.
Yeah. So my mom would kind of have this like she'd know when I got out of school and when I started school. If I was in her classroom 5 minutes before school started and 5 minutes after school ended, it'd be like a huge problem. She'd be like, where were you?
Strict.
Yeah. And then I did like independent study for the majority of my high school career. It was like 2 years. And so I was just sitting in her classroom right in front of her every day on a Chromebook.
This sounds so like isolated.
It was-
like your
I had,
whole
like, I
did you
had-
have a lot of friends?
No. I always, and I think part of it has to do with like just not knowing a key factor of your identity. Like who you like is just so based in the fundamentals of human beings.
So true.
When you're 1st through 5th grade, all your girlfriends want to talk about who you like, who your crushes are, and I'd just pick one. I'd make it up, and I'd always pick like whoever my best friend liked. I'd pick like his best friend. That was like my system, and I just didn't understand feelings, and I think that was really isolating because it didn't really make me want to be around people, and I
Sure,
don't think people like it was just so obvious I didn't know how to talk talk about it that I don't think I really meshed with any of the people I was around. And I think I would let people bully me. It was like a problem. My parents were like, they were like, oh, people would be so mean to you and you'd hang out with them. And obviously I wasn't allowed to hang out with anybody outside of school like until I was 15.
Like you couldn't have you didn't have play dates growing up?
I had play dates, but my parents had to know the kids for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like they had to know the parents. They had to, it kind of had no sleepovers.
So with all of this though, and then like how did it come about that you just started to feel like, oh no, I have like feelings?
Yeah.
Because I thought I was a lesbian until like my early 20s.
Just full gay?
Yes. So I did similar things as well where I would like just choose anyone to, you know, have a crush on boy wise. And then like I was like the only girl in middle school that didn't have a boyfriend. And then like at one point I was like, well, I just don't want to be in a relationship. But then I ended up like asking this girl out in 8th grade. And then everyone was like, you're lying. So then you do want to be in a relationship. So then like just my whole upbringing, I thought I was a lesbian. And then until I was like 21, I had like feelings for a guy. And I was like, oh, I can have it for both.
See, I was trying to have feelings for guys so hard.
Yeah.
Like throughout high school, after my parents found out I was dating a girl, I dated a guy. And like, it was just so icky to me. Like, it was just so like, you know, when something just doesn't fit.
It's not right.
And you know it doesn't fit. But I was trying so hard to make it fit, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, our hands didn't fit right. And the way he kissed was weird. And like, I didn't like the way he smelled.
So did you have a moment the way he smelled? I mean, all teenage boys, I also think that I just didn't like boys.
Yeah.
Like getting older.
You like men.
I like men.
Mm-hmm. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
See, I'm at the point where like I'm pretty much I'm gonna date women for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But like I can now appreciate men.
Yeah.
Growing up, it was just gross. It was just gross. It was just so nasty.
Well, you have a bestie who's like your roommate, right?
Yeah, and I love him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's gay, so it's really easy. It's so easy.
Well,
for
once
us
again,
to
also like it'll be like big dudes that I like, but they have very feminine energy. So I'm still like daddy in the relationship, but I don't know. It's just whatever I always say floats your boat. But then, so you had a girlfriend. So did you have the girlfriend first and then a boyfriend, or?
Yeah. So my parents found out about the girlfriend. We were together for like less than a month, and then they took my phone, and I had like no access to people, and I was like, I can't talk to anyone.
Yeah,
this sucks.
Yeah.
And I ended up dating this guy who sat right next to my ex, the first girlfriend, in like Spanish class.
She's like,
yeah. So it was just like a pity.
Was she out and fully, or no?
I think we were both pretty scared, and I think that's what didn't help. It wasn't like I could like do anything about it, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think her family knew. It was just unsafe for both of us.
Yeah.
And so that was not. And then my mom also, I think she told me she was gonna go like tell her mom or something. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want that to happen, so I have to protect her in some way, you know? And so then it was just like all up to me to like make sure everything was okay. So I dated him. It was gross.
How long did you date him?
Probably a month and a half. It was not a very long relationship. Like I cared about him, but more as like I want you to be my acquaintance.
I'm sure he was like a cool dude, but you're like, I just don't want to kiss you.
I just don't like you.
I just don't like you like that.
Yeah, and then after that, I pretty much just tried to date guys in high school, and I had one friend, Kyle, who kind of same way, just like a buff dude, but like gave off really feminine energy.
Yeah.
And I think I tried to like him, and in the process of trying to like him, I realized I really, really, really liked him as a friend. Like he was one of the first people I ever connected with on like a platonic level that I was like, oh man, you know, you remember the first friend that you had like a deep conversation with, you know?
You're like, please, I want to like you.
Yeah.
Like, I want to like you like that.
But it just, I went skiing with him last week. Like he's been in my life for like 8 years and we're still best friends.
I love that.
And I love him. But like that was pretty much my only person. And then I went to a Catholic college.
Is your family Catholic?
Yeah, I also grew up Catholic.
So that's probably even more on top of everything that you already said.
It definitely was like, I'd be sitting in church.
Explains a lot.
Yeah. The first day I went to college, there was like a grand mass or whatever, and it was in like the basketball stadium. We were all sitting there, and it was this priest talking about how when the women of the church get older, they're gonna find a man to serve. And I was like, guess that's my life purpose now. And like, because that's what I grew up hearing too. Yeah. That's just like, and I don't think my parents are that way. My parents, I think my mom, she'll say she believes in God, which is obviously fine. You can believe whatever you want. Like, I'm not gonna be like,
we're not gonna judge you here.
Yeah. You know, whatever. And then I don't know how my dad feels. I think my dad's like, he's always been very blatant with death. He's like, oh, and I'm ready to go, pull the plug. I'm like, Dad, don't you want us to cry a little bit? Like, grieve
so
you?
Aggressive.
My mom's like, I'm gonna be with my parents. I'm gonna be with God. I'm like, okay, you know. So they're different.
Attract, yeah.
Right. And so that Catholic background didn't really affect me a whole lot. Definitely a little bit. But we stopped going to church when I was like 15. And then I decided to go to a Catholic college.
That's crazy. I've never been to church like ever.
What?
Yeah, I've been in a church for a funeral, but I've never gone to like a Sunday. And it's not that I even don't believe in God or believe in like I say I'm spiritual. Like I'm very connected.
Feel the same way.
I feel like there is something.
There has to be
There's something more for
there
sure.
Has to be.
You know, I believe in being a good human and all that different shiz, but I can't go along with all that other stuff and just like hearing my dad's stories with him being openly bisexual, but like in the closet for most of his life.
Well, yeah.
You know, like, and just hearing what the pastor and like people would say and how they would make other people feel that seemed like they were gay, you know. It's horrible.
It's this. Okay, do you want to hear the story that like I feel like shaped a lot of who I am?
Of course. Am I gonna cry?
I hope not.
I hope not too. Double Pisces.
I'm not gonna. I've never cried while telling the story, so I think you're gonna be fine. But yeah, it was college, and I cut off all my hair. A priest cut off all my hair for the first time. It was crazy. Yeah. So we'd live in these dorms, and in the dorms would be priests and like nuns and stuff.
You lived with them?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like next door would be like a priest.
Fun college experience.
In the dorms.
Wild times. Ragers, it sounds
Woo!
like.
Yeah, no, it was horrible. And the first week there, I had never consumed alcohol in my life, but it was college.
Still.
Yeah, I was 17 and I had never drank. And I was like, I also went to college a bit young. I was always like,
yeah, that is young.
Yeah. And so I wasn't even 18 and I was just like, let's go to a party because that's what you're supposed to do. And you don't understand how ecstatic I was to finally be just in the world. Like it was crazy. I didn't have to turn in my phone before going to bed. I just went to sleep.
No, yeah.
I'm pretty sure the first night I cuddled with my phone to fall asleep. I was like, this is amazing.
You said my baby,
like,
my sweet little girl.
And it didn't have parental locks on it. I could text anyone I wanted, not just my parents. I was like, this is great.
Our experience growing up is just so different. Like I was in the club at 14. Like I was a city kid in New York City. I was exposed to everything and anything.
Awesome. And so it was the first week I went to a party and I got like drunk. Right? I didn't know like don't mix liquors. Don't drink beer and wine. I was consuming anything anybody handed to me. Nobody gave me the talk. I was pretty messed up. And these two girls ended up having to like carry me back to my dorm. It was gross. And then we were like walking past like the hall director and RAs and they were like act sober and I was like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so
I don't know how.
If you didn't even have that stuff, then you probably never even had like the sex talk with your parents growing up or like knew what that was about.
I knew what sex was.
Yeah.
I was not having it. It was not me. No, I was not.
It was not me. I was not that.
Then that night, my roommate walked in the room and I kind of came out to her and because I always heard like your roommate's gonna be your best friend, you're gonna really connect. Like so many people I knew were like my roommate's my everything, my roommate's my rock and all this. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like it's like a built-in best friend, how cute. And so I kind of came out to her. I was like, just so you know, I want you to know like I like girls, like I cut off my hair, I'm exploring my gender, and I was feeling so free in the moment. I was like, I'm so glad I confided in you. And then we went to bed and I found out she reported me to the hall director and three RAs for being gay. And then
that's so mean. But it's a Catholic school, so it probably wasn't a safe space from the start for you to come out.
I wanted to not believe that so bad.
Yeah.
Because obviously nobody wants that. And then they called me into the office, like, of my hall director on my 18th birthday. And she said she couldn't live with a guy. And I was like, what? So, what? And I was like, I'm not a dude.
Yeah.
And she was like, but you want to be. I was like, I don't know, maybe. But
like,
you don't get to decide that. And then I had to move rooms, live with this girl who smoked a lot of weed. And now I'm like, I fuck with you. But like in the moment, I was like, she's on methamphetamines. Like I didn't understand the difference between. Yeah, I was literally like, oh my God, she's doing like shrooms. And she was an
So you left from one dorm where she judged you.
She was like an ecology major. Like what else was she supposed to do?
But then you went to this other dorm and you were judging your roommate.
I was, because hear me out. I grew up thinking that weed was like the equivalent to black tar heroin. I didn't understand, like it was just like a little cute, like a little plant.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. And so I was like, oh my God, I live with like a drug addict. I'm like, I hope she's okay. Like I would fret about her in my free time. I'd be like, I'm thinking about her. Like I'm praying for her, whatever. I hope she's all right.
Were you nice to her at least? Or
I think I was also in a long distance relationship and they would call me a lot and we'd FaceTime a lot. And it was kind of exhausting because I wanted to go out, explore who I was by myself. But they'd be like, you need to stay in and FaceTime me. And so I was in the room FaceTiming a lot. She sent me a text second semester and she was like, could you just do that less? Because we were up in like, I don't think I respected the space because I had never really shared a room before. But I think we're still friends on Snapchat. She'll like swipe up and be like, oh,
you're like, now she's cool.
Nice homie. And I'm like, I wish I treated you better.
Well, you live, you learn. But like that's in general, like it's just what you're exposed to and it's what you're taught. And it sounds like your parents like taught you some things in your upbringing that were just like, to me, obviously not like the best.
Yeah.
Especially if you are like wanting to come out and express yourself and be like accepted. But like my question, I guess, would be like, how are they now?
Great.
Okay.
Gender's a little difficult, but I never harp on anybody for needing a little extra time with that one. Yeah. Just because I have 0 ounce of comfortability walking to a room saying I'm non-binary or I'm not. Like I don't know. I think it's something I'm still figuring out. And so as like I figured, I'm never gonna go to my parents and be like I'm this thing, because I don't know yet. Yeah. And I don't feel like either of us are ready for that. But
so you haven't talked to them about that?
I mean, I talked to them a little bit. I'm like, hey, sometimes I'm just not fucking with the female thing.
Yeah.
And then my dad doesn't really, I don't think they really like understand, but it's also like I can't talk to my mom about girls the way that my mom can talk to my sister about boys.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I'm always gonna want is to be able to like sit down with my mom and talk about girls and be like, oh, like
when you've had girlfriends, like have they met your parents ever?
Yeah, my girlfriend has met my parents. Yeah.
Okay, so
they're great with
the
that.
vibes are good.
Yeah, the vibes are good with that. Like after a certain point, I think I got to a really low point in college where I was like deep. I was just going through so much. Yeah. Just everything was like piling on top of me. There were like deaths in my family and like things that happened to me that just, they really shape a person.
For sure.
And like I was so messed up at like a certain point going into my second semester, my second year. Mm-hmm. And I was so low. And I think I mentioned some things to friends that were just like, you know, when you hear those things, you have to go tell somebody. We need to get Maddie help type of a thing. Yeah. And then so I left college. I left and my parents picked me up and there was just this violently huge weight that like lifted off my shoulders when we were driving away. My dad turned around and I was just crying. And he was like, it's okay. You never have to come back here if you don't want to. And the second my dad said that, I was like I literally just could breathe. Yeah. I was like, this isn't the place for me. This isn't what I want to do. And then I was on a medical leave until, you know, the next year. Yeah. And throughout that time, I started posting videos on TikTok. It was all I had to do, 3 to 6 times a day. And there was no money in it. There was nothing. It was just like a creative outlet to do.
Yeah, you're expressing yourself for the first time and just...
in my life. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And then it was also the first place I saw a light, like some sense of positivity towards who I was. I think the very first video I posted was me physically coming out of the closet. I was like, I'm so funny.
That was the first video?
Yeah. And then, because I knew I was gay at that point and I wasn't ashamed of it. And then I posted that and all the comments were like, this is so funny. This is so relatable. I was like, what? Really?
You said people like me that are supporting me and liking me. And
it was just so beyond. It was like, oh, really? Like, that's so cool. And then I started posting more and more and more. And just the feedback was just, obviously you get hate, but I don't think I've ever really cared about that. And it was just like, no, because I mean, I think I do what I do because I never saw a single person in my life who looked like me or acted like me ever. Yeah. And so now I can be that for other people. For like, I'll have kids who like know who I am and they'll meet me on the street and they'll like come out to me immediately. Yes, they'll be like, that's my family and like I go by this name and these pronouns, but they don't know that yet. And they'll just come out to me immediately. And I'm like, that's crazy that your family doesn't know and you feel safe enough to do that with me.
I think that's like the reason and what so many of us say as like content creators, and especially if we have a passion or just we want to bring visibility, or we didn't have someone that was like us growing up, like even you saying the Ellen thing, that's kind of, even though as I was exposed to a lot of different types of people, as far as like a girl being into a girl and me thinking I was a lesbian, I was like, well, I don't look like Ellen.
I do not look like Ellen. So I actually walked in the door, was like, is that Ellen?
But no, I mean, so even for me, I was like, wait, I don't look like a lesbian, so there's no way that I can actually like be into girls. Like, it was just so confusing to me. I hadn't seen the L word. I hadn't seen like all those different things later on in my life. So even going on Love Island and like that's such a hetero show. So many people don't feel seen watching that, but it's like a massive show. So when I came off of it, the response, once again, like kind of what you're saying, like people coming out to me and just being like, thank you for like being open about it. Yeah. Because sometimes people are like, oh, you know, why do you talk about your sexuality so much, all this different stuff? I'm like, because like what you were saying. Yeah. I want to be that for someone else, that they can like see it online and be like, oh, I'm okay because I can relate to this and she feels good in her own skin. I can feel good too.
Yeah. No, that's amazing, because like I feel like you very much encapsulate the femme experience. You know, my girlfriend's very femmy and I'm like, it's like I walk into a room and people just know. Like they're not like, oh, a straight woman.
Well,
you know?
I just learned a term. Do you know what an 100-footer is?
I don't think I've encountered one.
Well, no, not that. And that's what everyone first goes to. No, it's like someone that from like 100 feet away, you could tell that like they're gay.
Oh my gosh, that's me.
That's you.
Yay.
But like also, what is gay? You can look like anything.
Right. That's I think what got me so tripped up, because the first person I dated, that girl, she was very masculine. She like wore the backwards hats and like the leather jackets, and I was like, you're so hot, and I'm 14 and in love with you, right?
You said that's my type.
Right, exactly. And with straight girls too, or like straight, like I say straight girls because I think a lot of girls in high school experimented with their sexualities with me because they knew I was gay, but they were like deep-rooted Christians that eventually were like, I can't do this, we're wrong for God. And I'm like, okay. But I think like,
cool,
yeah. Well, the second that I started to like dress like this, it's so crazy because I don't feel like I like express myself the way that like, I mean, I definitely feel like that, but I'm just so feminine, like on like the inside, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I love my entire room is like pink. Yeah. Like I love like
I think
silly
that's a
girly
misconception.
things.
Like even I just saw a TikTok or someone where it was like more like masculine presenting girls, and they were like, we want to be the little spoon too sometimes. Like,
oh my God,
we want to be like wined and dined and asked out, and like it doesn't mean that you have to be like that boyfriend role or like the man, the one that wears the pants. It's like, yeah, you still love your femininity.
1000%. And like my girlfriend too, she is the first person I've ever dated that really treats me like a girlfriend. Like she'll like buy me flowers, and she'll like call me pretty, and she'll just like make me feel so seen in the way that I've always wanted to be seen. And I'm like, I didn't think anybody was ever gonna look at me like the way that you do, type of a thing. And it's just so crazy that I'm experiencing that for the first time at 23, you know? And she's just
still young.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's people experience dating who they want to date at like 15, I get what you're saying. You know? And that like she just does such a good job of that, and I'm very appreciative, obviously. And it's also nice that like she doesn't assume that I'm just a dude, you know? That was my biggest fear going into it, because she's bi. I was like, I don't want you to just be like
bi sister.
Yeah, and I was like, she just got out of a relationship with like a guy, and I was like, hey, I'm not a dude. Like I'm really
just
not
so
a
you
guy.
Know, when these pants come off,
there's not a penis.
There's not a penis.
There's not. Sorry. Yeah, you're gonna go down there and be like, oh my God, where is it? But
where is it?
It's. She just, I feel like I never had to explain it to her. Yeah. Like when I asked her to be my girlfriend, I was so proud of the moment. It was at a Lana Del Rey concert. She loves Lana.
And that's goals.
I know. And she was like, it was the first time Lana Del Rey was performing in the US in like 9 years. And so I flew her out to go see it. And then I asked her there.
Flew her out?
Yeah, I did. No, but I was like, I knew I wanted to ask her to be my girlfriend. In that moment, I was like, do you want to be my girlfriend? She was like, yes. And then we were laying in bed later, and I was like, just so happy, obviously ecstatic. And she was like, wait, what do I call you? Because in my last relationship before her, I was called like the boyfriend. And I think it's because I was like expressing myself in such a hyper masculine way. After finally, I feel like I just started to express myself at probably 21 years old.
Yeah.
And like dressed the way I wanted, acted the way I wanted. Yeah. And I think that was the vibe for the time. But I was like, I think I want you to call me like your girlfriend. And she was like, okay.
That's crazy. So they literally called you their boyfriend.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
At what age were you?
I dated I think from 20 to 20, a little bit into 22.
Okay. So then with her, it just sounds like it's the first time that you've felt fully seen and like comfortable with fully being yourself. Yeah. And not like fitting into something that you're not or what your partner wants you to be.
And I don't think my partner before that wanted me to be a specific sort of anything, because we were both pretty masculine. But I think it's like I was still confused about what I wanted and who I wanted to be. Yeah. And I feel like I had a huge lack of communication in that relationship. I just felt like I could never talk to them about anything. Yeah. I was always scared.
I will say I don't know if it's the one that you're talking about, but that's like when I was trying to like learn more about you before coming on. That was like so much freaking drama. Yeah. I don't know if it's that one.
It is that one.
Okay.
Because I've only had like one public relationship like that, where I've dated like another like content creator influencer. And I don't know what I was thinking.
Well, is that why? And like another, like the only question, like the biggest question asked in the little box thing was, why don't you show like her face?
Because of exactly what happened
because of that
in
situation. Yeah. But people like know who she is.
Like if you try, like I don't care
like
if you know who she is. Yeah, my mega fans know who she is. And people are like, we know, and I'm like, great. Yeah. I don't care if you know. Yeah. You know, but I'm never gonna. I mean, I might when we're like married or living together.
To marry her?
Of course I want to marry her. Of course.
I love love.
Me too. I'm always like a pretty big hopeless romantic. But she's also like, I don't know, she's just great for me, I feel like. And I think I'm good for her, and like that's
you're like cutesy. It's like I'll post videos, but you're not really. You're gonna see her profile.
You're gonna or like we'll like do the her hand on my face or like the cute stuff like that. And also for her, she's always said that she doesn't think she can handle, like, when I go out, I get recognized.
Yeah.
And she doesn't think she can handle
11
that.
million on TikTok. The freak.
That's
That's crazy. That would scare me.
It terrifies me every day.
It's scary.
Yeah. I can't, like, go. I've realized, like, there's no more normal family vacations. There's no more going to, like, Disney World and not getting recognized.
Everyone in my family posts now. So, like, everyone has a following. We went on a cruise this past year, and it was like I had to hide in the room with my mom. Like, we're the more antisocial ones. But it was just like we were trapped, and not trapped because we love you guys. But it was like scary because I was like, I was getting drunk too. I'm like, what if someone takes a video of me looking crazy?
See, I don't go out.
Yeah, that's what you were saying, which I'm more like that now, unless like I have to go somewhere for an event. But I'm more of a homebody too.
I love being a homebody.
And you have a girlfriend. If I had a girlfriend, no one would see me.
No, we just cuddle and we build Legos and we do puzzles.
And you live with your best friend.
And it's just, that dynamic is so perfect. Like, I love the dynamic between the three of us right now. And I obviously love him. No, he's the best. He's the greatest. But like, I think it's also like I want her to be able to go out in public and not have that happen to her because she's expressed she doesn't want that. So I'm not gonna.
She's not a influencer.
I mean, she's like she has like she posts and she has like a bit of a following, but like not on that level, and she doesn't want to be on that level. Yeah, she doesn't post as if she wants like that kind of a life. Okay, and I'm good with that. I just want her to be happy. Obviously.
So you are good with it, like, because I feel like having 11 million people, I don't even have a mil. You know, I have half. So I'm proud of that. Proud over here.
That's amazing.
It's fun, but that even makes me feel like scared sometimes, and like people say stuff, and it's just like it can be a lot. So like, have you ever had a moment with that mass amount of people, like a canceled moment, or just like something that it's like people are coming for you, and like how like I would crumble? And
I think you know the answer to that already.
I really don't. The only thing that I saw was
my ex.
That ex situation.
So
and you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but just like
I can.
Okay,
it's okay.
It's a safe space.
They started posting about me like crazy, and I think we talked about not doing that. And so when they started doing that, and I was like, "There's nothing I can really do to stop you from doing that. You're well within your jurisdiction to post whatever you want about me, but I'm not going to respond to it. I'm not going to feed into whatever you want me to post right now." Yeah. And I think that was the biggest thing. They were trying to get me to be like, no, yes, no, fighting with them on the internet for what? First of all, that's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in general, it just adds to like the fire if you try to have your say.
Right.
If people are going to believe you, they are. But like, even if you're like, this is the truth, if people don't want to believe you, they're not going to freaking believe
right.
you.
And so I'm like, I'm not going to waste my breath. Yeah. And then I think the only platform I said anything on was YouTube. And I think what I said was, I'm not going to say anything because half of y'all have already made up your mind, and the other half of you just have to understand, I'm not saying anything about it. Yeah. And I think, but that was from the help of my family, my friends, my managers. They were all like, because I was so messed up. I was barely eating.
Okay, because for a second you were like, none of it bothers me. I'm like, how
the
are
hate
you saying
on
that?
Like, if I post a reel and it lands on like the dude side of Instagram and they're like womp womp or whatever, I'm like,
I don't give a freak. I'm not trying to impress y'all.
I don't give a shit. Yeah. Like if anything, you're only boosting my algorithm. Yeah. And so I don't care about any of that.
You said keep commenting.
No, I just don't care. Like there's nothing.
This other side of it, of like people actually coming for like your character.
That was hard because I was like, I obviously know myself. Yeah. And I know what happened. I lived through also what they put me through that's not on the internet at all. Yeah. And I'm like, if anything, I'm doing them like a favor by not responding because it's just like, do you want us to just hash our relationship
like
out?
I said, it would just add
everyone.
It would add gasoline to the fire, but it's so true of what you're saying, and it's amazing that like you have a support system because 100%. Like I feel so much for people in this industry that don't have like family or close friends that like knew them before it all, or just like authentic people in your life that like care about you and know who you actually are.
Those are the people I started to lean on a lot more this past year. I feel like this past year has been the most monumental year for me growth-wise. Just sort of you feel your brain understanding things it didn't before. So like what relationships are important, you know, what relationships you need to hold close. And those, the ones especially for us are for the people who know us before we had any sort of anything.
For sure.
And I think like my best friend or my two best friends who I talk to multiple times a week still are from high school. They just loved me when I was like the quiet, nerdy kid who didn't have any friends, who didn't talk to anyone.
Because you're still them, like, but now you have 11 million followers.
Well, I think that's the thing. I think that's why people liked me in the first place. Was like, I was just so raw. I mean, I look back at my old videos and it makes me emotional because I'm like, I was so happy. Like, I was just so excited to be alive, and I was so excited to be in the world. Yeah. And it was so cute. I understand why people really mess with that. Yeah. And I think, like,
because that's hard to do. It's hard to get online and be like authentic and just someone who does bring like energy and a message, and that's hard to do. A lot of people don't do that.
I have the platform now. Building it, honestly, it was easy because I already had work. It wasn't work. It was like, oh my gosh, now it is, because now it's my job. Now it's my only job, and if I don't post, I don't have a job.
Yeah, very true.
And I think it's also fun now because I get to experiment with the way I express myself. I get to experiment with my videos. But, you know, back then I was just literally just so enthralled and just encapsulated by what the internet could be, that I was just posting like crazy, and people really, really liked it. And it was great. It was like a great time.
That makes so much sense though, because like from your upbringing and the community that you were around, you were finding your community for the first time, and people that were like you and supporting you and for all the things that you are. Yeah. That's a very addictive feeling too. 100%. And that's also dangerous though too, because then it is sometimes like the reactions that your audience gives you, it really does like make you pivot on, sometimes, at least this is me personally, on like what I do. And I got into that like kind of when shit first started blowing up for me. Now I'm like, I don't care if you guys don't like this is me. But like, have you had those moments where you feel like you have to like be something that you're not because you said it on the internet, or like, because we're constantly changing too, and I feel like people want you to stay the same, especially when you've been on the internet for years,
right? And like, that's a conversation I have with my roommate a lot. I think looking back on my first videos, I am just not that way anymore. And if I tried to be, it would be inauthentic as hell.
My voice is even different on like my first videos. I'm like, who is that? Why are you talking like that?
Especially just the way people have consumed media. You have to change with the flow. Yeah. You have to stay on the trends, and you have to understand the way that social media works now, not 5 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And I think like when I first made videos, I would talk like this. And then I'd take a second before I said something again. Now I have to talk like this because people won't stay engaged unless I'm talking like a million words a second. Yeah. You know what I mean?
You're chatty Kathy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like it's just, you have to change with it. And like it's also like people want authenticity. Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. And so now I'm the most myself when I'm alone. When no other bitches are in the room, that's who I am.
And that's when you're filming.
And that's when I'm filming.
That's what people are weird about too with me, is like they'll meet me in person and I am more like introverted. Like it's sometimes easier for me to talk like this in front of a camera. Yeah. And then when there's no camera, I'm like, and they're like
started shaking. Your lips were like, oh my God.
Because it's so weird. I'm like, why is it more comfortable sometimes to do that? But I'm like, it usually is. Like, we're in my bedroom right now. This is my safe space.
Cozy.
It's cozy. So cozy. I'm filming TikToks and acting like an idiot with my family, who I grew up with. That I feel, you know,
family brings that out. When I go visit my family, I'm more myself.
Literally. But then like, so they're like, oh, you're so crazy and this and that. I'm like, you're seeing me in my most like my safest spaces with the people that like I feel great around, you know? And then if you see me out and about, I might be a little bit more introverted and weird. Yeah. Like that's just it.
I think the funniest part about all that is my roommate, who is, I think, so underrated, even though he's got the following, girl. He's got the numbers, don't get me wrong. He just deserves more. Like, he is the funniest, wittiest person I've ever met in my life.
People love your relationship.
Right. And I do too.
It's so goofy. Like, I love it.
And it's so funny because like we have the best times off camera. I was telling him the other day, I was like, when I look at you, I just like, your job is no part of that. Like, you are just my best friend. Aww. And I look at you and I'm like, that's Carter. Like, that's just my person. Yeah. And we've always had conversations where it's like, you know, you meet someone and you're in my life forever, and you have no choice. And I love you.
You're stuck with me.
And I think the thing with him is he is himself 100% of the time. Every second of every minute of every day, Carter is Carter. Yeah. You meet Carter after he's gone to the bathroom, he's Carter. You meet Carter in the middle of a mall where people are swarming him because they love him. That's Carter.
That's a vibe, though. That's a good person to be around because it allows you to be yourself.
Yeah, and he even hypes me up so much because I'm so quiet. He'll be like, oh, Maddie, like, people are going to like you, I promise. Because I'm most myself around him too. He's my person. I've known him for like 3-4 years now. Yeah. And at first I was a fan, and so now that I'm like his best friend.
Oh really? You were a fan of
like the fact that my brain I watched his videos. Oh wow. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's so cool. And then he followed me back. I was like, no way. And we kind of blew up around the same time. Yeah. And I think it was just so cool. And then I met him in person, was like, man, I really like this guy. Aww. And then he moved in and I was like, I love this guy. Like, this is my person. And I think you know, being able to have that relationship is so helpful because he's just beyond like the screen.
Yeah.
He's always hyping me up. He's like, your personality's great. People are going to like you.
And that's the weird thing about this industry, though, is I feel like so many content creators work with other content creators.
And
they
it's
look
fake.
Well, they look like besties online, and then they literally actually hate each other. There have been so many times.
Crazy.
I'm not going to drop names, but there's so many times that I'm like, you guys hate each other, and you're so mean to each other. And then the camera's on, and it's like, hey, bestie. So, and I'm like, what the freak? Like, I could just never do that. And that's why, like, it's amazing that you have him. Like, I have my family, and it's like, we're the same when the camera's on than when the camera's off.
That's what you need.
Yeah,
and like where there were times where we were like, hey, we need to communicate on a bigger level right now. We started to make videos less, and we started to focus on our in-person relationship and like really set the foundations well for that. And I think my parents call him like their son. Like they love him too, and he loves my family.
Fam bam.
He is, and so I'm like, it's like he's like having family out here, you know, which is hard to find in LA. And I've experienced that too, where somebody follows me and they're acting cool to me in like DMs or whatever, and I'll go and try and say hi to him at an event or a party, and they'll act like they've never met me or don't know who I am, and I'm like, do I exist? Like it makes me question reality.
Weird. Even more than that, I feel like. And also with reality TV, it's so hard because so many people, like, I'm going to sound like I'm lying, but, like, I go on those shows, like, wanting to find love and just, like, show up as my authentic self. So, like...
You probably meet people who aren't that way.
There's just so many, like, fake people, I guess, is what I'm saying in the industry. So when you come across people that are, like, also just chill and authentic, like... It's so refreshing.
Yeah. Do you watch The Bachelor?
I used to with my mom.
You don't watch the season?
So you know The Bachelor.
Oh, that was my reality show growing up, was The Bachelor. It was The Bachelor, Bachelorette. I would watch it with my family. We'd be like, oh my gosh, who's he gonna pick? Who's she gonna pick? Whatever. And I started, my girlfriend's the best person to watch these shows with, because she'll just be like, stop crying. Like she's just so, she's like,
I'm not affected by this.
She's so disconnected. She'll just rip into people. And it's like, I'm half watching the show, half just cracking up at
What's
what
your
she's saying.
sign? Are you gonna be annoyed by me asking that?
A Virgo.
A Virgo.
No,
okay.
I'm not be annoyed.
Because you know sometimes people are like, oh, that's so LA. I'm like, I believe in this shit.
No, I definitely like. I'm like I have my little crystals. I have my little.
That's okay.
Yeah, I try.
So
I'm
you're a
trying to
Virgo. What is she?
She's a Pisces.
I'm a Pisces. That's weird that she's not emotional because we're like emotional. But I wonder what her other signs are.
I don't know that. I know my other signs are Aries and Scorpio.
Okay.
Like the 3.
Aries is fire. Is it
Rah.
fire? I don't know. Do you know?
I don't know.
You said this is new information to me.
You were like, I didn't even know there was 3.
Well, our sister's like a full-blown witch. Like she does like moon ceremonies and like...
Zolita is too.
Yes. Oh yeah, you had her on the podcast.
I did such a deep dive into her because my management was like, you need to know
everything
so cool about her. And I was like, dang, I feel like the people who don't do this on purpose are the people who are meant to be doing it. Like you didn't meant to do social media.
No.
You just were like, let's go on reality TV.
Literally.
And now you're here.
I wasn't even supposed to be on it. My sister was the one that they hit up, and I just like was a fan of the show. I used to watch with my ex-girlfriend, but like I said, super introverted. Never in my life thought I could. I actually like started doing like homeschooling like as a teenager. So even more was like not just very talkative. So my sister got hit up for it, but I was like, I want to go and like see what the experience was in general, and then they ended up putting me on it. So it was just like a freakish, like I almost backed out a week before too because I was like, I can't do this, and my sister was like, nah, you're going on for the both of us.
I mean, that's what sisters are for. Did you ever think like with social media, or sorry, not social media, just where you were probably used to being in front of a camera though?
For sure.
And
I was a Kids Bop kid.
Exactly.
I was a Kids Bop kid.
So why were you like tripping?
Because it was fine to be in front of the camera in a working form. Like I've been on photo shoots, doing the music videos, like I was being hired. I've always gotten along more with adults. Like that felt comfortable to me. Yeah. But then the thought of going in, I didn't go to college. The thought of going into a situation like a reality TV show, I also thought I was like a lesbian a couple months before going... Not a couple months before. It was like I had my first situation with a guy and had feelings for him for the first time ever. Like the first year that I moved to LA, and then I think I got on Love Island the second year that I was out there. But I just, in all those senses, like I was like, I barely like dated men. What the fuck am I doing? And I never went to college. Like, are they going to think I'm weird? Am I weird? You know?
Yeah.
So no, I had no clue in that sense of like what that would be like for me and how I would be able to adapt, because I just was not very social. And it wasn't work. It was like go and talk to people and socialize and like get a boyfriend.
Well, did they tell you to get a boyfriend? Or were they like, go get a boyfriend?
No, and I was very open. I was like, I just lost my V card like last year to a dude, you know, like I've only dated women, never had a boyfriend, like all this different stuff.
And did they like that? They were like,
that's cool. Like it didn't feel at that point like it was like yes or no, like type of like positive or negative energy. But there was no kind of layout because I was like, oh, are there going to be other like girls on that are into girls? And they were like, yeah, totally. No, you know. So like the first
but
like
wasn't there?
Okay, so the first couple weeks, no, but then. And, like, I didn't feel like they wanted me to, like, choose a girl. Like, it felt like, you know, it was just, like, I had to choose a guy and find a guy. But then this girl came in and I thought she was so hot. And she, like, made a comment like, yeah, I love kissing girls. And I was like, okay. So then, like, we started talking. They didn't really, like, push it. But then, like, the audience, like, went crazy. But like, you don't know that. We don't have our phones. We don't have any of that stuff. So she was kind of like trying to figure it out. And I had like dated a bi-curious girl like before, which love the journey. That's all cool. But I was like, I don't want, like, I need
you to be sure about me.
I need you to be sure before I open myself up because I got hurt. I got hurt in that situation. Yeah. And it was really like, damn, she realized like she couldn't actually like go there with me. Like she wouldn't see herself like that's marrying me.
That's what I went through in high school. It was like these girls were like, maybe. And I was like, that's not hot.
It was hot at first. I was like, oh, because even kind of what you were saying, like girls like would date you because it was like a safe space and they knew that you were like into women. Mm-hmm. For me, I feel like I have a lot of bi-curious girls because I was on Love Island and everyone knows. And then I'm also like, I feel like I'm safe in a way. It's weird.
Why does that make you... Isn't that the most unsafe situation where you don't know if the person even likes you?
No, like they feel safe with me. Because I'm like so like open and whatever about it. But like I just got so triggered on the show when that girl came in and she kind of was like, oh, I don't know if I could have feelings because of like my past situation. Yeah. Now after that show though, I'm like, unless there are other women that are actually like have been in relationships, like I don't want to go on a dating show unless I have, you know, both.
Yeah.
Like that's not fair. I don't know. That's
not
right,
fair.
Right?
Yeah. To give you like one option.
Yeah. No. But no, I mean, going back to like Zolita, so she was saying that she didn't expect all of this. What were you saying?
I was saying she was a witch. Oh. But no, what I was saying is like she started out doing stuff, you know, as like projects for college, and she didn't ever expect to go and like channel that into the music space. Yeah. And I think I just started working at a boba shop, and I was like, let's make silly little videos. Yeah. I wasn't like trying to get anywhere with it or get anything from it. I was just happy making my videos. Mm-hmm. And there was zero. When I had the most amount of views, I gained 2 million followers in 3 weeks. Like when I was like bumping insane as fuck, I was making $0. Yeah. Like nothing. Yeah. And I think that's like, those are the best people who blow up, don't make anything, and then turn it into a job. Yeah. Because you already have that. And so now I'm like, and I still am authentic. It's just the authenticity that I feel when I'm alone. And then people will meet me and they'll be like screaming in my face, and I'm like, I don't know what to do.
What do you do? Do you start sweating? I start sweating.
Yeah, like I literally.
I don't know if people scream in my face, but I definitely there was one drunk girl that I thought she was gonna fight me. Actually, I didn't know if it was good or bad when she was approaching me because it was a lot. It was like her bridesmaid party and like a bunch of these girls just running towards me, but I couldn't tell if it was good or bad.
I get that sometimes. I mean,
I start sweating. Like I get really anxious.
I sweat immediately,
and I'm like my lips twitching. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, can I hug you? Is usually what I say, and they're like, yeah. I'm like, why am I asking it like that?
They're usually the ones that ask for a hug. Carter coaches me through those situations. He's like, tell them you like their shirt or like something. Compliment them, and I'm like, okay, that's always like the first place my brain goes. Yeah. But sometimes it just shuts off, and sometimes it's just like, oh, yeah. What do I say? Yeah. Because I went to a Cave Town concert, and like that. Imagine my demographic just like thrown up into that venue. Like that's exactly who follows me. Yeah. It's like just young queer people. Yeah. Literally, people were recording me from like behind me, like the stands, like asking to take pictures with me. My girlfriend had to be my like little bodyguard. She was like, come on, get over here. Come over here. And so yeah, I just usually like compliment them, ask them like, depending on like what we're doing, they're like, oh, did you like the show?
Yeah. But it can be a lot. And then sometimes I'm like, why? You know? But it's like because
it's like, why do you even care?
Yeah, like, why do you care about me? But it's because you're being so open and you're making people feel like seen on the internet. And like, it is a really beautiful thing to like be yourself and feel comfortable being yourself. It helps other people be themselves. Yeah. So it's just like,
which is something I need to like recognize more. Yeah. Because I feel like I talked about this I don't know, one of my friends like a week ago. We were like, we do things, great things. Yeah. And then we make people feel seen and accepted. And then the only thing we can focus on is how to do it better. Like we're all like, oh my gosh, okay. Am I losing followers? Am I gaining followers? Am I making money? Am I not? not? Am I like employed? Am I like,
yeah,
you know, especially because the space is so saturated, we're always focused on like what we can do better to sort of like,
for sure,
just continue doing what we do because it's such a special field and you don't want to fall out of it, you know?
Yeah.
And at the same time, you are impacting people. It's like, I need to just recognize that more because people will meet me and just be like, you're so amazing. And I'm like, really?
Am I?
You think so?
Yeah, and then I'm like, I'm sharing so much. Am I weird for sharing it? But it is like that really addictive feeling where it's like, no, the more that you share, the more people feel seen, and like it just normalizes a lot of stuff that people are like hating themselves for. That it's like, no, you know.
Yeah.
But well, so like, what would be your advice to someone that's kind of in a more conservative space and they're not where you're at, you know, but they're like in that hard time? Like, what would be your advice to them on feeling good?
It's unfortunate, but honestly, just give it time. Like when I was 15, I literally was like, trigger warning, I was like sitting in a hospital with a doctor and they were like, why don't you want to be here? And I was like, what does the world mean? Like, we're just on a floating rock. I was so existential at 15. I was like, I hadn't experienced the world yet. As much as you think you know at that time, and as much as your environment is sucky and shitty, like I am so appalled at what my life is right now. Like if I always say if 15-year-old me could see me, I'd probably have significantly less problems because I was so terrified of the current environment that I was in. I couldn't conceptualize a better one.
So what would you say to yourself if you could go and meet?
Hang on, you got it. Just like hang on, like because
I
always just wanted to like give up because I never thought I would be like truly happy with who I was, with where I was, with the people who were surrounding me, comfortable within my lack of religion and finding out my like gaining in spirituality, like connecting to like the universe. I was always so convinced that I was never gonna find that. I just tell myself that like you find exactly what you're looking for by accident, but you get there, you know.
So your advice would be time.
Like, and I know it sucks because like there's nothing you can like that's what people told me and I hated it. My biggest qualm with people would be like when they tell me, oh, you're only 15, you're just 15. I hated it. It made me feel so invalidated because like your feelings, no matter when you're feeling them or how you're feeling them,
valid.
They're always so valid, you know. But I honestly probably say it too, like at this point.
I mean, I said it, I kept on saying it to you when you came in. I'm like, you're just 23.
You're just 23. And that's crazy because I mean, now
it's
I
all
like
relative,
you know, like hearing it because I'm like, oh, that makes me feel like people say that to me who are 27.
27 tomorrow.
27, yeah.
Almost my birthday.
20, you're not even, like 26, 27. They're like, whoa, like when I was your age, I was so like and I'm like, I'm so discombobulated all the time. Like I have no of my shit together.
That's okay.
Like
you're living your best life and your truth. You don't have to have your shit together.
I'm going
ever.
month to month. I'm like, and then I look at the last month and I'm like, what was I doing?
Who knows? Who was I? I swear my personality changes like once a week. So like,
oh my gosh, that's the most existential thing I think with being on the internet. I'm constantly convinced I have no personality because I'll like put it out for the camera and I'll put my phone on and be like, nah, 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 and then I'll like edit it and then I'll just lay there.
You're like, who am I?
And I'll just like, I can't like conceptualize myself or like I'll watch my videos back and be like, who are you?
It's so weird. It's a really weird thing sometimes. And I'll like lay my head down to like sleep sometimes and I'm like, I get anxious a little bit because I'm like, is that me? Am I being authentic? But then I'm like, we have so many different aspects of ourselves and pieces of ourselves that make us us. So of course we're going to be a little bit different on one day and the next year and like all that different shiz, but it's just continuing to grow and like letting yourself change. You don't have to stay the same. You don't have to be the same human being or look the same like your whole life.
Yeah. And I know people too. I feel like especially people with like my following, it is so violently hard to get there now. And I'm so appreciative that I have what I have and got it when I got it. Because now it's virtually impossible.
It's so oversaturated.
It is so hard.
Yeah.
And I know it's just like hard for me because I'll think about it and I'll think about like other people who have similar followings in this space. And they're like, they've got like representation in their emails and they're like scheduled and they've got like photo shoots and plane rides to like different countries for Fashion Week. I'm just hanging out with my cats.
And your girlfriend.
And my girlfriend and I'm not and I'm like thinking about it, I'm like I don't understand. I don't get it. And I don't think I want to get it because I think if I start to get it then I'll like lose myself a little bit.
No, I almost think you're probably able to be so authentic and like who you are because you weren't exposed to like so many of us watch our favorite YouTubers growing up and you almost like imitate them or you like kind of do what they do. You had like nothing to like grab from, it sounds like, so you just did what you did, first post coming out of a closet and you were just you.
And I'm just here now.
And you're just here now. Speaking him now, like, what is next for Maddie? What can the people look out for? Where can they find you? Tell the people. I feel like I'm, the show Hot Ones?
Yeah.
I was about to be like, of course you don't. Okay, good.
You're like,
because you don't know anything.
Hey,
but
idiot.
But at the end, he's always like, tell the people where to find you. Look at this camera. Look at this camera, Maddie. Tell the people where to. Oh, did you just wink at the camera?
Please cut that out, for the love of God.
We're leaving it in. Okay, tell the camera. Tell the people where to find you. Tell them what's next for Maddie Westbrook.
I always decide day of what's next for me. So you can find me anywhere, like literally anywhere at Westbrook. Not OnlyFans, sorry to disappoint. But yeah, I do everything you can think of. I do Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube. YouTube is my main. That's probably if I'm like, oh, look out for something. Look out for YouTube.
YouTube.
I post on there a lot, and I'm ready to actually work harder on there. Yeah, because I do everything, and I have my own podcast, Closet Talk.
So cool. Closet Talk it's a vibe.
Yes, I have a closet.
Yeah, closet. They've had a lot of my friends on, which has been really, really dope. And yeah, I was on it recently too. So if you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. But thank you so much, Maddie, for coming on. Once again, I truly think you're probably helping so many people more than you know.
Thank you. I appreciate
with their journey of coming out. So I appreciate you. And how do we end this amazing podcast?
Thank you for having coffee with Kyra.
Yay! Thank you, Maddie.